Hello, I'm Michael Rasmussen, the GRC pundit, and we're here in Washington, D.C. at the GRC Summit in 2016. And with me is Natalie Bamford from dNata, and she is the Vice President of Safety there. Welcome.
Thank you, Michael.
So tell me a little bit about dNata, what it's about, and your role there.
Okay, well, dNata is in the aviation industry. We manage everything to do with passengers and aircraft on the ground, so not in flight but on the ground. So from check-in through to baggage handling, through to loading, offloading, cargo off the aircraft. So a wide range of on-the-ground activities, flight catering as well. We have a travel division, so we help people book their dream holidays, so it's quite a diverse portfolio that we have.
So you're probably operating across a range of jurisdictions?
Yes, we are. We have a global remit, which in itself is challenging because obviously different countries, different requirements, different standards, different regulations. And the other interesting aspect of what we do is that the ground handling part of our business is not regulated. So unlike the airlines, heavy regulation in terms of the engineering of the aircraft, the flying of the aircraft, the ground service providers or the provision of ground services isn't regulated. So people might think, oh, that would be great to work in an environment where there's no regulation, but actually it's not that great. It's very hard to implement change, raise the bar in terms of standards if there's no real requirement for us to do so. Lobbying, influencing, advising, trying to show what other industries are doing in the space of safety or governance, risk compliance. It's a way to try and get that interest, that urgency for change, but very difficult without regulation.
So your role is the Vice President of Safety. Mm-hmm. So what is your responsibilities?
Basically, my role is as a senior advisor, subject matter expert in the area of workplace health and safety. So the environment that we work in the ground handling business is very dangerous. We have big aircraft, big heavy machinery, equipment, lots of people working in close proximity. So often they clash, so we can have potentially serious injuries. We can cause damage to aircraft, which, if that goes unreported or undetected, can cause serious problems when it's in flight. So the danger of non-compliance in our industry can cost lives. So there's that edge to that non-compliance, which perhaps banking or a financial institute doesn't necessarily have to worry about, but we have to worry about the human life side of things. So my role is really just to ensure that the business is doing all that it can do to create a safe place of work and to ensure that flight safety and passengers on board a flight is protected and maintained while we're operating that aircraft on the ground.
So what's the scope of GRC at dNata, and what are some of your greatest challenges?
I guess GRC, we're early adopters or sort of very early on in the journey of adopting the principles of GRC. We have put in place some good foundations over the last 3-4 years. We've implemented we're implementing a 5-year safety strategy, which has really put in place the governance structure. And through the help of Metric Stream and the solution, helping us to gather the data and start using the data to make informed decisions. The compliance side of things, we have hundreds of procedures in place. The challenge that we face is how do we get people to follow those procedures? How do they understand the consequences of not following those procedures? That actually, if they don't follow this procedure, it can cost a life. So that behavioural, cultural side, we've spent quite a lot of time and invested in that area over the last 2-3 years to understand why people don't do or do certain things that can create a high risk environment. Our approach before was just to put more procedures into the workplace, but that wasn't necessarily the right answer. The answer is helping people understand the importance of those procedures and compliance and what the consequences are. But that's a massive cultural change in the organisation, and we've still some way to go down that road.
So what's the role of technology in your strategy?
A key enabler. Without data that's accurate, timely, meaningful, we're blind as to what our risks are. We're blind as to what's happening where and why, and then it means that we aren't able to react appropriately or predict where we think the next incident or issue is going to arise in our operations. So the other thing about technology is that it helps us measure our performance. So are we focused on the right things? Are we seeing the results that we want? Do we need to change our strategy? Do we need to change our approach? And where specifically is that? Which part of the world? Which function? So the data and the technology is a key enabler for us to be successful.
What are some of the benefits you've already received?
The benefits, I'd have to say, creating that culture where people feel that they want to report. So we had a number of different legacy systems, whether it be for people filling out a handwritten piece of paper to report an issue versus using a system which was very clunky, and they had to fill in lots of fields which weren't really relevant. So we spent a lot of time working on that user interface. And as a result, we've seen a lot more incidents reported into the system, which people might say, oh, that's not a good thing, but actually it is. If we know about things before they happen, then we can address it, we can do something about it. So that buzz around a new system, making it look sexy, making people say, yep, it's really easy for me to report. Yes, I get feedback as well in terms of what's happening with what I reported, having that visibility. That's been a huge success factor for us. The challenge is now we have all of this lovely data. What do we do with it? How do we make it work for us in a way that we can be more strategic, be more proactive around some of the decisions that we make and some of the actions that we take. That's where we're at right now, is getting the data to work for us in a way that can make us more effective, more successful in terms of what we're trying to achieve.
Excellent. Do you have any final advice for our viewers?
I would probably say keep it simple. Implementing change technology is complicated enough. If you can try and simplify what you do using the technology, I think you will benefit from that. Understand your audience. So a workforce staff member has very different needs to a senior executive, and one is not better or greater than the other. You have to understand what the different needs are and build into the system means of addressing the needs of the different audiences you might have in your organisation, and get them involved right from the beginning through to the end.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thanks, Mark.